Hey guys, I'm finally making this video. It took me a while to actually turn the camera on and start talking about this movie because I watched it 2 nights ago in theaters, and it's quite fuzzy in my memory, and it was a really long movie. It was kind of all over the place, so I get the feeling that that's kind of how this review will be as well. So if you have not seen this movie, Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions, then there will be spoilers. So if you really don't want anything spoiled, I'm sorry, but they will be spoiled, so just click away. But let's be honest, we don't necessarily watch Yu-Gi-Oh! For the plot. We mostly watch it for the battles, right? The duels. And I won't really be talking about what goes on in the duels. I'll just kind of say who wins if it's relevant to the story. So that's the kind of spoilers you're gonna get, along with the general plot. So, you know, decide now whether you want to continue watching this or not. But yeah, I don't know about you, but I kind of watch Yu-Gi-Oh! For the snarky remarks, the ridiculous dialogue, and then the duels as well, just to see the strategy within the duels. So I don't know, but I'm gonna get on with the plot. There will be spoilers. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. It was just, it felt kind of long, and there were quite a few scenes that I felt like they really didn't need to have in the movie. They weren't completely useless, maybe had some comic relief in it, but overall had nothing or very little to do with the storyline. So there was like a few scenes with Joey in it and, you know, stuff like that, and I just really, it kind of just made the movie a little bit too long. I kind of wish the movie was about an hour and a half, but it turned out to be, I think, about 2 hours. So, oh, I do want to talk about my actual theater experience real quick. I walked into the theater and I noticed there was no children in the theater. So it was like, it's funny because you think of Yu-Gi-Oh! As like a kid's, you know, show, but I mean, I watched it as a kid, but it's 20 years old now. So people who watched it like me as a kid are now adults, and there was nothing but adults sitting in those chairs. So that was quite interesting to have such a ridiculous movie be populated by only adults. I don't think I saw one kid in that theater, which is really interesting, but actually very expected. So it just kind of, you know, hit me there how old I am, and I was like, dang, we still 20 years later we're still watching this ridiculous show with hilarious dialogue. But yeah, it was overall a very enjoyable experience. I think if you have a chance to see it in theaters, definitely do. I'm not sure if it's still in theaters or if it was only like a 1 or 2 day thing. I don't know, but we watched it like 2 days ago, so I'm assuming it's still in select theaters. So go see it if you have the chance. It's a really interesting experience watching anime in theaters in general, because that's not something we really get to do that often, because how often is an anime even in theaters? It's kind of a cool thing, so check it out. But let's get into the plot a little bit. Actually not a little bit, that's this whole video is basically gonna be plot from here on. I'm just gonna kind of run through the main points of the plot because it is absolutely all over the place. But I'm gonna try to piece it together like the Millennium Puzzle for you right now. So let's start with kind of the beginning of it. Let's talk about Kaiba. So Kaiba, in the beginning, he's searching for the remnants of the Millennium Puzzle, which you go to the Millennium Chamber, I guess it's called. I looked it up on Wikipedia because I couldn't remember the names of some of this stuff. So he goes to the Millennium Chamber. He's looking for the remnants of the Millennium Puzzle from, I guess, a previous movie, which I never saw. I only watched, I think, like the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! And maybe some stuff after that. But I haven't seen all of Yu-Gi-Oh! At all, and I haven't seen any of the other movies, I don't think. I don't remember. If you're like me and you haven't seen all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, like, you can totally still go see this movie and you'll totally understand everything that's going on, as long as you've seen a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! And know the characters at least. So anyways, I guess in a previous movie, the Millennium Puzzle kind of broke apart and the pharaoh is gone. Yu-Gi-Oh! Said goodbye to the pharaoh, and Kaiba's looking for it again because his egotistical, you know, God complex mind he needs the Pharaoh to come back just so he can prove that he can defeat the Pharaoh in a duel for his own selfish reasons. That's all he wants. He just wants to know if he is good enough for himself. You know, he's very egotistical. He needs to prove to himself that he is top dog. And yeah, he wants to put the Millennium pieces together and summon the Pharaoh, which Yu-Gi-Oh actually says is impossible, but we'll get to that later. So during the excavation, he is interrupted by this new character, Diva, who is one of the main characters in this movie. He's the main villain. You can go like this for villain because he's not really a villain. He's just a severely confused child inside. So he interrupts the excavation because he wants the Millennium Puzzle. He does not want Kaiba to have it and to resurrect the Pharaoh. None of that. And side note, Diva, this character, has something called the Quantum Cube, which allows him to pull anyone and any reality into a different dimension, and also just kind of create that dimension around him. So it in the movie, it looks like it's a type of virtual reality, but it's just like a different dimension where different rules apply. So him and Kaiba duel it out in this dimension. I forget what he calls it. It's like dimension dueling or something like that, where the rules are a bit different. So in the first duel, you get to learn the rules of this dimension dueling. At the end of the duel, Kaiba's little brother takes the Millennium pieces of the puzzle and takes them up in the air in a helicopter or something like that, or spaceship, I can't remember. They're so rich, they have it all. So he takes the Millennium pieces, and Diva just teleports because he has the Quantum Cube. He can kind of appear to teleport different areas, and he teleports onto the thing with the Millennium pieces. He kind of breaks through the glass and he tries to take them. Little does Kaiba know, and little does his little brother know, that he actually did end up taking 2 Millennium pieces of the puzzle. One which he keeps, and the second of which he gives to his little sister Sarah, who is like a dimensional being, because she's not really like in reality. She's in this other dimension that he can access with the Quantum Cube. So he kind of like gives his other piece to his sister Sarah, who she then goes and gives that piece to Yugi because she recognizes Yugi as the previous host of the Pharaoh. So I guess she trusts him with the other piece because of his history with being the host of the Pharaoh. And Diva does not know that she gave him the other puzzle piece. He thinks that Sarah still has it. Meanwhile, Diva forges a friendship with Yugi and his friends, but really he's just trying to get close to Bakura because they have a little history. So he pulls Bakura into this other dimension that he can access with the Quantum Cube, and he keeps Bakura there and he talks to him and stuff. And he's like, you are the reason why my mentor Shadi is dead, and you ruined everything, and you're basically awful, and you did this. This is why I'm so hateful and stuff like that. So he's like, you are the reason for this. And Bakura's sitting there like, no, I understand where you're coming from, and it's not my fault. Like, I was just a child. So it goes into this memory of a memory that Bakura and Diva had, because they share a memory of them in Egypt, and Diva was like a part of this group of children who were being mentored by their mentor Shadi. This is in Egypt, and it's happening. He's like mentoring them in the Millennium Chamber, I guess. And he's talking to them about fear and hate and stuff like that, and do not let fear consume you. And then, you know, this is a clip that I really wanted to watch over again because I wanted to be able to directly quote it. But Diva stands up and he talks about a world with none of that stuff, and then Shadi is like, no, you don't understand, like that is exactly the definition of fear. And Diva just doesn't really quite understand. And right after that dialogue exchange, Bakura's uncle, I believe it is, it's either his uncle or his father, I think it's his uncle, he's obsessed with finding the Millennium Ring, and so Bakura is just curious, and he is a kind of stowaway. His uncle doesn't know he's there. His uncle comes into the Millennium Chamber and is like, the ring, I found it, give me the ring, I'll pay you anything. And Shadi is like, all right, take the ring, see what happens, just see what happens, put the ring on. So so he puts the ring on, it consumes him, and he like dies. Oh my gosh, there's like dogs out there crying. Okay, I'm just gonna keep talking. So he's like, put the ring on, and so he puts it on, and the uncle like is consumed by it, and I think he like dies or something. And then Bakura's like, no, so he picks up the ring, not understanding what it is, and then immediately, I think it's because he's a child, he's so innocent, and he doesn't understand any of this, that the ring sees that as an opportunity. It's like you're an easy target at that point, you know, because you don't understand how to keep stuff like that out, like negative influences out, so you're very easily susceptible to negative influence as a child. And the ring just takes Bakura over, and he kind of grows up like that with the ring. And so I think in previous series or movies or something, Bakura is like the bad guy because of the ring. So during that moment, I guess the ring destroys Shadi through Bakura, and Shadi dies. And so Diva equates that to, it's your fault. It's your fault that my mentor is dead now. And Bakura is saying, no, it's not my fault. It was the ring. Like, I didn't know what was going on. Which, you know, sadly, that's what happens. Bad things happen, and it's really no one's fault, and you can't blame one person or another. It's just bad stuff happens, and when you start blaming, you start fearing that person or that group of people or whatever, that thing, that force, you start fearing something and you give hate to it, then that thing is just like, it's just really sad, because that will grow because your hatred fuels that. It's unfortunate, but on with the story. Meanwhile, while they're kind of in their other dimension hashing it out, remembering these moments, Kaiba is up in his spaceship Corin's tower on crack, all up in space with his little computer. He's got the Millennium pieces. He throws them in the computer and he's like, all right, do the thing, put it together. And so the computer starts to put it together, which is, it's really funny because the computer talks to Kaiba and is telling him how it's able to put the pieces together and how genius this technology is. And he's like, computer, I already know, you don't think I know how this works, I created this. And then the computer is like, yes, but I recognize that you like to be reminded of how genius you are. And it's so funny because that's so his character. He's just so egotistical, and he needs constant validation that he's brilliant. It's really sad actually, but also comical. The computer's putting together the pieces and it realizes it's missing two, and it's like, it cannot be completed, sorry, there's 2 pieces missing. And so Kaiba's like, Diva, you did this. So he instantly knows Diva did it, and he goes back to Earth and he puts together like a whole stadium of people. It's like an event to demonstrate his new dual disc, which allows you to kind of create your own virtual reality. And so while he's demonstrating the dual disc, he kidnaps Diva and brings him to the stadium because he knows he has the Millennium pieces and that's all he wants, because he just wants to battle the Pharaoh. And so he brings Diva and is like, you will battle me for the puzzle pieces. And then I guess he approaches Yugi too, I can't really remember, and Yugi's there too, and he's like, I have the other piece. And so Kaiba wants to battle them both and use the pieces that they have as like gambling pieces, and it's like, okay, well, if I win, you know, you give me those pieces and then we'll complete the puzzle and I will get what I want. Yugi is pissed off at Diva for what he did to Bakura, because Bakura is still gone. He's still in that other dimension, and Yugi is like, I want Bakura back. And so he battles, Diva and Yugi battle. Some crazy stuff goes down, and some ridiculous dialogue goes down. I think there's this one moment where Yugi summons the Apple Magician Girl, and then I think it's Diva. I think he's battling Diva during this, and he's like, you're gonna beat me with a fruit. And it's so funny, it's so ridiculous. And then he like throws, you know, the lemonade magician girl at him. He's like, make lemonade, or whatever he says. It's so stupid. I'm just gonna tell you who wins. Yugi wins the duel, and then after he wins, Bakura kind of shows up from the other dimension, and then Diva's hate and his fear absolutely consumes him, and then he's very susceptible to the Millennium Ring, and the Millennium Ring completely takes him over. It's just like he turns into a monster, okay? He is the embodiment, the manifestation of fear itself, and he has now become everything that he has hated. The ring, the Millennium Ring, is what caused his grief to begin with, and now he is completely consumed by the Millennium Ring, which now he is the cause for what he hates so much, and he is the cause for all of the fear and suffering he has gone through. That, I believe, is the core message of this movie, is that if you fear and hate enough and you let it consume you, you will then become the very thing that you fear and you hate. That I really, really, really loved about this movie, that core message, which I also like to remind you that that is the same message in Star Wars. That's what happened to Darth Vader. So watch those movies again, because it demonstrates that beautifully. But yes, he is consumed by the Millennium Ring because of that, because he turns into like this freaking monster, right? Kaiba and Yugi team up against Diva. During the duel, Kaiba actually sacrifices his own points so that Yugi can survive and bring forth the Pharaoh, which before Yugi actually completed the puzzle and told Kaiba the Pharaoh's no longer there. Like, even if you complete this puzzle, it doesn't matter, because the Pharaoh's spirit is no longer there. It's past, it's gone. It cannot be summoned, which actually ended up to be true. But then, because I think Kaiba sacrificed himself during the duel as they teamed up against Diva, he was somehow able to bring the Pharaoh forth, and then the Pharaoh took over, defeated Diva with ease, with absolute ease, without a word being said. He did not say a word in the movie at all. And after Diva was, I guess, exorcised, you can say, the Pharaoh disappears, he fades away, as does the Millennium Puzzle. All is well, and Bakura is back in reality, and everyone's happy. The only person who's not happy is now Kaiba, because he's like, dang, I didn't get to duel the Pharaoh. So at the end of the movie, you see Kaiba uses the technology of the quantum cube that belonged to Diva, and coupled with the technology he has created in order to go to the dimension that the Pharaoh is in. And then at the end, you see the Pharaoh get out of his throne, and he's got this smirk on his face, and you just know that him and Kaiba are about to duel it out, but you don't get to see that duel because the movie ends. So that's the movie. I know that took a really long time to recap. It's it was a very long movie and it was all over the place, but those were the puzzle pieces to the plot. And really the most enjoyable part of this movie was the theater experience, the fact that you're watching this ridiculous movie with a bunch of adults. And I loved the core message, which was, it was powerful, but at the same time it wasn't, it didn't consume the whole movie. So you still had all this lighthearted stuff. It's getting quite dark in here, by the way. I'm sorry for the lighting. Another thing I really loved about the movie is the ridiculous dialogue. The dialogue in this movie is absolutely hilarious. Like, you will laugh your butt off. It's so dumb and amazing, and it's why you watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you have to watch Yu-Gi-Oh! For the ridiculous comments the characters make towards each other, especially during duels. I think there was this moment where Kaiba was summoning all these dragons, because that's what Kaiba does, and he was battling against Yugi, and he was like, "You really don't like dragons, do you?" And it was just so funny, and the whole theater busted up, and you had to be there. But go watch the movie if you like Yu-Gi-Oh! At all. Just don't go into it expecting an amazing movie. Go into it expecting a ridiculous Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie, and you will like it as long as that's what you expect, you will like it. But I'm gonna head out now. The lighting is awful at this point. It took too long. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.